This is Insama Kaoma, and she is the wife of the mission developer for Grace Communion International. Her husband is the mission developer for Africa. They were over here in March last year, and I was talking to her, and I said, would you be interested in a group of us coming over for a mission trip in Zambia? And she was really enthusiastic. She had a very positive response. So then, okay, it's time to start planning. And as you can see, I've already got my note paper out ready for this. It's actually very difficult to plan a mission trip in a country over in another country if you don't go there. That's my experience. So if you don't go there, you don't know the people, you don't know the conditions you're working with, you don't know where you will be doing ministry, and you can't explain it to the team and give them a feel for it before you go. You just have to know what you're going to. So here we go. Next slide. I hop on a plane and I go down to Zambia last December. I almost backed out. I got scared. I read too much on the internet, but as some of you know. But anyway, it wasn't like what I had read on the internet, thankfully. My first week was in Lusaka, which is the capital city of Zambia. And during that week, I visited the different churches there and kind of got to know the people a little bit and the circumstances and things to kind of give me an overview of what it would be like. The second week, I kind of planned the trip so that I would also be doing something useful while I'm there. The second week was their yearly SEP camp. Since I work at SEP camp here every year, I thought I'd go along and help. So that was kind of neat to do that. Okay, next slide. About two-thirds of Zambians live in poverty. To give you a comparison, the per capita income in the United States is $47,000 a year. In the Philippines, it's $3,300. In Zambia, the per capita income is $1,500. And because Haiti is in the news so much lately, I thought I would add that it is $1,300. So you can see that Zambia is one of the world's poorest nations. Life expectancy in Zambia is 39 years old, and 1 out of 10 women die in childbirth. 14% of the adults there have HIV or AIDS. Let's look at the price of things in Zambia. Shoes, 19,900 kwacha, which converts to $25 US. But when you consider that their annual income is only $1,500 a year, then by comparison with their income, it would be like an American paying $780 for a pair of shoes. And you can see why they just buy flip-flops, which most people in the Philippines also do. Okay, ground beef is $12 a pound, and that's like us paying $384 a pound for ground beef. So you can see that they rarely eat meat. Rice, 5 kilograms of rice is $9. Over here you're paying, what, 4 or 5 or something for the same? I think, yeah. Okay, but that would be like us paying $280 for 5 kilograms of rice here when you compare the incomes. I visited 3 of the 4 Grace Communion congregations in the capital city of Lusaka. The first was Chongwei. They meet in the cafeteria of a boarding school. The church member owns the boarding school, so they're very blessed to have free rent. We may possibly hold a day camp at this school, a 2 or 3 day VBS type camp. The next place I visited was the Chamba Valley Church, and this is where the Comas usually attend. We could probably also have a day camp there. Chawama is where we attended church on Sunday, and they meet in a school classroom. Zambians love to sing and dance. You can see where Brian has his roots. They did this for an hour and a half before the sermon, because when they have visitors, they all like to get up there and do some little performance worshiping God. And, it really struck me with an hour and a half of music. And, they have such a wonderful beat, and you can really get into it. Some of the songs were kind of the same style as Bahamas, kind of a black gospel music with a good beat that makes you want to dance. So, anyway, during the singing, we sang, next slide, we sang some of the same side songs that we'd learned in Bahamas last summer. And I started to think about how the black people here and in the Bahamas had come from Africa. And this was the land of their roots. And I was there, Couldn't help thinking about Brian and how much he'd love to be there. But I started getting emotional, and then they sang Amazing Grace, and the tears just came to my eyes. It was just pouring down my eyes, and the choir was like right there, and I was thinking, oh man, they're all looking at me. They're wondering why I'm crying. Am I homesick or what, you know? And but I was just thinking about how, you know, our brothers and sisters all around the world sing the same song, Amazing Grace, and I was just kind of overcome by it at the moment, you know. We're all just one big church. Okay, and then after that, we tried to visit the fourth church in Lusaka, which is Lolanda, but it was raining cats and dogs that day, and the roads were flooded, and you can't cross the road if you don't know how deep those potholes are, so we didn't make it to the fourth church, but we will probably also have a day camp at that church as well. I sat in on a SEP camp planning meeting one day, and I realized how difficult it is for them to plan a camp there. You know, when their income is so low, and the camp fee is $50, which to us seems like nothing, but for them, you know, when you translate it with their income, it's like us paying $7,200 to go to camp for a week. So it's kind of impossible. So they can't plan because a lot of people haven't paid yet. They're waiting for scholarships. Scholarship money comes from overseas, from Canada. In this case, Newlife sent $500, so we were able to scholarship 10 kids. So that was kind of good to be able to do that. Okay, in Zambia, things cost a lot more than people can afford. Things take longer than you would expect. And Murphy's Law, which says if anything can go wrong, it will, is in full effect there. And here's some examples. Campers from Zambia and Malawi in the north were all taking a bus down to camp. And this would typically take 6 to 8 hours drive. However, the bus broke down not once, but 3 times on the way. And finally, they just figured they couldn't fix the bus. It was going to be too expensive. The mechanics didn't know what they were doing. So we had to put them on another bus. Well, that was another issue, financial issue for them, because the finances are a real struggle. So what should have taken 6 hours took 24 hours, and the kids arrived 1 day late for camp. Okay, now the rest of the kids were coming from Zimbabwe in the south. And last year they took a train. This is last year. They took a train, and halfway along, the train driver stopped the train, went on strike, and demanded more money from everybody. So they decided that this year they would take a bus. However, their bus broke down, and they also arrived a day late from camp. They actually slept overnight at the border, because the border closes at 10 p.m. They didn't get there until after the border closed, so they slept at the border overnight. Okay, so that's just, things just are different. Yeah. It's a struggle for them. Murphy's Law. Okay, this is just a shot of the countryside that we saw on the 8-hour drive going south to camp, because we went 2 days early to help set up. Our car thankfully didn't break down. Outside the, when you think about cars, there were only 2 cars at camp, and both of them came with our mission developer. So those are the only cars. Everybody else comes in by bus. They don't have cars. Okay, so that's a countryside. That's just a little village along the way. There's lots of those along the way. People live in mud and thatch huts. The SEP camp was held at Hillcrest College, which is a boarding school, and where all the smartest kids in the country go to this school for 12th grade. So you've got the top kids in the whole country coming into this school for 12th grade. And whereas once it might have been a nice school, it's now getting very run down. The toilets don't work, or some toilets. Out of about 100 electrical outlets in that whole dormitory that I was in, we only found one that worked. And believe me, I had batteries to charge. I had to find an outlet that worked. Windows are broken, paint's peeling, and it's infested with cockroaches. I learned to live with hundreds, if not thousands, of cockroaches that week. And I was so glad that I had a mosquito net to keep the cockroaches off me at night, because those weren't cockroaches that stayed away in the daytime. They were right out there, and they were bold. So, if this is where the smartest kids in the country live, they come for 12th grade, this is how they're teaching their future leaders to live. Okay, while at camp, I led the campers and staff in a team building, and I had a different team building activity every day. This is the trust fall. And after the girls had done the trust fall, they insisted on catching Kalanguli, who's the mission developer for Africa. I think he even got a kick out of it. Actually, they caught me too. I wanted to go last because I was probably the heaviest there. Okay, the white stuff on the plate there is called nshima, and it's a thick cooked cornmeal paste. The green vegetable is called rape. They wanted to make camp special by giving the campers meat every day because they're not used to having meat every day. So we either had chicken or beef for dinner. Now the vegetable was either rape or cabbage, and most of the time we had nshima, but sometimes we had rice, so I really liked rice. And that's it. There were no other choices. There were only 3 things served for dinner every day. You didn't get a choice of chicken or beef or rice or nshima. It was just 3 things. There were no juice, no fruit, no dessert, no salad. Now, I thought the meals were good. Yeah, that looks like a good meal to me. But think about it. If this was served at our camp every day up in Big Bear, the campers would start to complain because we are so spoiled here. I think personally that we should have 2 days at camp right after a talk about missions where we should do something like that. They also had to bring their own cup and plate, and they had to wash them after every meal. So we are so spoiled here, so blessed. Most Zambians eat with their hands and not with utensils. After all, who wants to pay for utensils on their income if you have hands? This is Humphrey, and he's rolling his nshima. Now, nshima is picked up with a hand, and you roll it, and you sit there and talk for a while. It's like having a cup of tea, And you roll it in your hand until the texture is just right, and then you can dip it in gravy, or you can kind of make a kind of a hole in the middle, like a spoon, and you just put some cabbage in there or something, and then you eat it. I videotaped somebody doing it, and I got them to talk while they were doing it. It was kind of neat. Everybody was staring at me, quite amused. For the campers, the highlight of the camp was the visit to Victoria Falls. It is twice as high as Niagara Falls and twice as long. And it's not possible to get a picture of the full length of it. It's listed as one of the 7 natural wonders of the world. And that was just a few minutes away from where the camp was. One day I was talking to Kalanguli and Nsama, and they asked me why I did mission trips. And this led to an interesting discussion because Kalanguli is the mission developer for Africa. And he shared how he travels to some places, and the people are just so thankful that he came. And they feel like they've been forgotten, and for him to visit them, it's just a big source of encouragement for them. And Nsama talked about how I had left America, my comfort zone, a place where we had so much, and we don't have to live with cockroaches. And I came to Zambia to share some of what I had with them. Then she talked about Jesus who was in heaven, and he left all that he had, and he humbled himself and came to earth for us. She said that what I did in going to Zambia was a little bit like what Jesus did, just a little bit. The people in Zambia are certainly very appreciative of everything that we're able to do for them or bring for them. And they especially appreciate the fact that we just came. They're not forgotten, and our visit is a big source of encouragement to them. And so I'm planning a trip to Zambia for August of 2011. And the Malawi pastor wants me to go there as well. But I said, well, might have to wait another year.